you trust Ferguson Roof Systems to replace your roof, we go the extra mile to protect your home and property. On every job, we deploy durable netting to protect your home's exterior and landscaping. It's just one more reason why you should call Ferguson Roof Systems today.
All right, we are back. Hello, everyone. Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle with you. It is about 9:35 here on our Tuesday evening. So welcome to the broadcast. And we're talking about the remaining snow here for tonight, how much we've seen so far today. And, of course, direct question is how much of it melted. And already, of course, without even the sun of the next day. And then we will discuss the next winter threat, which I talked about earlier. In detail at the 5:30 broadcast, and what I mentioned in my blog on Sunday and my other lives going back to last week. The pattern's going to be changing toward the end of the month. We're probably going to get some ice around here. That looks more and more likely, and we're going to get to that too as well. So thanks for joining me. Make sure you like and share this video. Tell your friends and family about AT's weather. They can find me on the interwebs right at their fingertips. On Facebook, as usual, for today, they haven't notified you, most of you, at all when I went live. I don't know why. The last couple of days, they were great. I mean, they were on it. Today, I don't know, there's a glitch in the matrix. But you can hit the link I just posted in the comments section, and you can get a direct message from me when I go live. Conversely, please do that. You can also join, if you're a fan of Rumble, a fan of Twitter or YouTube, go ahead and like my pages and follow me there, and you will get notified if you tap the bell. And hit that option, and they seem to be doing a better job right now, so that way you don't miss an episode. So all that housekeeping out of the way. By the way, thanks for tuning in, you guys out there. We'll chat here in just a bit. Okay, so first things first, I've got 33.3 degrees, so still not quite at freezing here, and I may never actually hit freezing. Still has some snow in my area. Matter of fact, I can see it there on my camera, even through that mess that you see. So if I kind of zoom on in here, you can see it from the light out there. And I'm going to do this just so I can see it myself. Let's do this. This way. Big flakes. Huge flakes again. I had a lot of huge flakes today. And it was so sad to watch the majority of those big flakes melt. Ugh. Anyway, you can look at snowfall or more reports that came in midday from the National Weather Service. The highest amounts, of course, were in the early morning hours when that system started to come out of the Texas Panhandle. They were able to quickly measure before a lot of the melting occurred. 4 to 6 inches widespread in western Oklahoma, and then a little spot of 6 to 8. And then up around the Enid area, some nice snow before a lot of it melted. And then Oklahoma City, again, a lot of these reports haven't come in yet, but we'll look at the radar. There are a scattering of reports out there right now, and we can do that here. So across the state, we're pretty much into the lower 30s, with the exception of up here. Still some mid-30s hanging on in northeast Oklahoma, and way down here in southeast Oklahoma for temperatures. Otherwise, even around in northwest Arkansas, southwestern Missouri, you guys are also in the lower 30s. And you see a lot of blue on the map indicating snowfall continues in that area. So like I mentioned earlier, there's, let's see, from the last report, a 1/4 inch of new snow for you guys. Here in Oklahoma City, another inch of snow. Let's see, down here, another 2 inches of snow. There's 3.5 Cleveland County here in central Oklahoma. Around the Norman area, kind of varied. There was a 3-inch total there, 3.1, Pauls Valley 2. Southeast from there to Ada, let's see, that was a report, where was it? 5 inches, so that was a pretty good report coming in. 2.5 in Pontotoc. A lot of this just depends on what time they measure. If it was right during the heavy snow period before it had a chance to melt. Shawnee, 3 inches, again, just south of you for Tecumseh. Eastbound in Henrietta, there's a 6-inch mark. That's one of the highest in the state so far here for this evening. East of there, looks like southeast of there, another 5.5-inch mark for Haskell in Latimer counties. So that's some pretty good snows there. And then Fort Smith, there you go, some more snow, measurable snow there. Tulsa, you guys, sorry man, you just had a rough go of it today. But you are getting a little bit of snow in Grapple now here in Broken Arrow being reported. So that's some good news, and also still a little bit of a rain-snow mix on the south side of Tulsa County. So you're finally getting your transition over to snow at 9:30, which is a little too late. You're going to really get hosed on this deal. You're not going to get much out of this overnight. We'll show you how much here, though, in just a second. So that's kind of a round robin as to what the current conditions are and where the snowfall still resides. So we still got some good snow here, obviously, in the metro. Points down south. Oh, that's the other thing I want to tell you. Look down here in Dallas. They are, or have, measured a little bit of rain and snow. Just on the north side of the Metroplex here, between there and Denton, about an inch of snow on the ground. So actual decent measurable snow did happen just outside of Tarrant and Dallas County, but the radar did showcase a little bit of that transition to snow down here. Matter of fact, I'm going to switch over to this radar just to show you the purple colors here on this particular map shows you where the rain has transitioned over into snow. And if you look here, and I'll do a little bit of a replay, see if I can't grab the last little bit of data that went through. I may have gotten the data too late, because I think I did. But when I went and looked earlier at this data this evening, you can see there at least were some flurries that worked through Dallas-Fort Worth. So that part of the forecast verified, but that's about it for you guys. Maybe the next go around you'll get some action. Although the action we're going to be talking about you may not want. Okay, so back to the big maps here. One of the reasons why Tulsa just couldn't get it, their wet bulb temperature just hung in there all day long in the upper 30s. They are finally at 34 to 35 degrees, which is a sweet spot to get the snowflakes to actually make it to the ground through the rain. And that's why those observations we looked at kind of are back and forth between rain and snow in that region. Just, boy, unlucky, I'm telling you. And then down in far southeast Oklahoma, Curtin County, an outlier here, we mentioned that probably wouldn't see any snow because temperature's just a little too warm. The hazardous outlook as far as the winter storm warning continues here in pink, although it's starting to erode down here out to the west, but we'll continue up to the east of us into Arkansas and Missouri. Here's a look at the upper level low that is now beginning to lift to the north. So again, it kind of did this little track here across I-20, and it's now jogging up to the north-northeast. So it's actually taking a little faster jog to the north than it was supposed to. It's supposed to kind of go over here and then jog to the north. So it's just a little to the west of that. But what that does is hit that deformation zone. You see a little highlight of white on the map? That is extra heavy snow on the back end of the upper level low. And so that's what's going to give us that last little hurrah of measurable snow here in central Oklahoma. So if you put this into motion for you, this is the snow radar animation through time. Again, there's Tulsa with rain-snow mix, finally turning over to all snow. You can see heavy snow across eastern Oklahoma through the remainder of this evening into Arkansas and Missouri, and then lighter snow continues overnight into daybreak hours. Some flurries in the morning, that moves on off to the east. A little bit of light snow there for southern Colorado and the Texas Panhandle again. Otherwise, pretty quiet through this period. Looks like a little bit of a sprinkle or light snow shower coming through Thursday afternoon there in eastern Oklahoma. Otherwise, pretty quiet. So, rainfall amounts, or at least how much will fall from the sky at this point in time. Probably about another 1/10 of an inch if you melt it all down, another 4/10 out into eastern Oklahoma. What that just goes to show you that there's not going to be a whole lot of more heavy precipitation as far as liquid equivalent is concerned, although the flakes out there are still pretty big. All right, here's a look at temperatures into the mid-30s. As we go into the morning hours, they really don't change much. They're close to freezing, so be kind of careful, bridges and overpasses. Otherwise, I think you'll be fine with the roadways. They'll just be kind of wet from melting snow that continues overnight. Otherwise, 20s out in western Oklahoma. So any precipitation out here, the roadways might have a little better shot at freezing up. Just be careful. Otherwise, it's a quick rebound into the 40s tomorrow into the afternoon hours. So it will be somewhat decent day, and then we'll cool you back down to the 30s and 20s across the state for Thursday morning, and then we're back into the 40s to near 50 for Thursday afternoon. So a little on the chilly side, but again, that's nothing compared to what's coming. The rest of the actual snow, heavier measurable snow, will continue up here toward Missouri into northwestern Arkansas, where they're still going to get probably another 6 inches of snow overnight in some of those areas. And then here in eastern Oklahoma, kind of puts the break back in here across the I-35 corridor, so not much expected west of there. I'll zoom in to that map here for Oklahoma itself, and there will be pockets here, another 3 to 4 inches of heavy snow, especially these little terrain-induced areas into eastern Oklahoma. But there's Tulsa, again, about 1.5 inches of snow left over overnight. We'll get about another inch or so here in Oklahoma City. Some places may get 2 inches on the east side, but divide that by 2, right? Half of that's going to melt, and that's just kind of the way it is. Okay, so let's take a look at the jet stream pattern. I mentioned to you again how things were changing to get our pattern. And let me go to the northern hemisphere because it doesn't even really quite show it that well until I do it this way. Jet stream pattern comes in, bumps up over the top of this big ridge, crosses over the pole, back down south into the western U.S., and then back up to the northeast. This is a barn breaker for us. I mean, it is going to be cold. There is nothing to stop it. So we're going to be in a locked-in cold pattern for the end of January, end of February within that. So we take a look at the jet stream at this level, just across the U.S. It'll show us that by the end of the forecast period, this goes through, you know what, let me back that up. Let's do it this way because you're going to miss out too much if I cut it off for you too soon. Little system here that's moving through, as we talked about tonight, that's here and gone. In its wake, we get into this northwest flow for the end of the week. In other words, these winds go in like this, all right? So what that's going to do is tap into the colder air, start to drive it down, and that's going to set the pattern change. So we get the cold air that comes in first, all right? And then as we head on over to weekend for Sunday night, now this is an overrunning pattern, a southwest flow aloft, which brings Pacific moisture aloft. It brings these little upper level disturbances that rotate around in the jet stream that come overhead. And finally, it allows the Gulf of Mexico to open up and pulls in a lot of low-level Gulf moisture back into Oklahoma. So this pattern here, as long as you have Arctic air in place, spells ice storm. And it spells a long-lived ice storm because this would be for Monday, all right? Look at how the pattern still stays locked in for Tuesday. And then we go into Wednesday, it's still locked in. And then Thursday, we're actually to Friday, it doesn't really change. Now, odds are it won't lock in that long. And eventually, yeah, I just don't see it locking that long. If it did, we'd be in real trouble. So here's what happens within that. And let me do this map first. Yeah, we'll do this map first. Give me this. All right. Okay, so we can track the Arctic air at the 925 millibar level. All right, so let me go here through time. Sunday morning. All right, so this is that infamous I-44 corridor business where you know that Arctic air likes to kind of come into that region and stop, and then we get the ice that develops on top of it, right? It seems to be the dividing line. Okay, we'll just leave that line on the screen for you. So that's 12 Sunday. So look how that cold air builds and it kind of stalls and hangs in there again on Monday. So we really don't warm things up. Slight moderation there for a Monday night and a Tuesday, but then a reinforcing shock pushes it back to the south again, and it just sits here, all right, until we get into Thursday, and then it just blasts all the way to the south, and that clears us out. We get some really cold air that fills in behind it. Now, keep in mind, the atmosphere today was this, however, is going to be very shallow Arctic air with this is the warm advection layer. This is where you get I lose my signal. And my signal dropped. Precipitation. So let's go ahead and zoom on into that period of time. So we're going to go to Sunday. All right, let's see what happens as we go from Sunday into Monday. Look at this. We start to see the warm air advection take shape on into. I might do a speed test here while I'm live on the air. Just because see what happens. Anyway, sets the stage for the ice to form. There's Tuesday, still the same thing. And then there's Wednesday where the cold front pushes south and starts to push south anyway. And then that hold for a second. I'm going to run. Of course, this only happens, live. It never happens during like testing or whatever. Yeah, it's my internet speed now. Thanks, Cox. You guys will like this. Here, I'll just show it to you. So anytime you see me buffer, it's because of this right here. It's taking all the bandwidth. A gamer or Cox has some issues with their lines from the snow, and that's hosing me. And it just happens to be because sometimes it's intermittent, and the cause of it will go away. So I'm gonna see if I can't hold that thought. Hang on, don't drop. We are. Come on, you can do it. Find the network. There it is. I may have to disconnect my Ethernet cable to force. All right, let's do another speed test here. My feed over here on Facebook and it's still frozen. So you guys on it froze up. Let me see YouTube. Hold on. Second. I was almost done too. I literally was. I was almost done. Let's see here. Yep. Okay. It looks like I'm back. All right. Okay. I think we're good. Did another speed test and just using my phone as a hotspot since Cox cable's not working for me. I'm back up to at least 15 megs upload speed, so that's going to have to do. Usually need like 30 for all this, but we'll do what it is. All right, you just saw Cranky Aaron. This is really Cranky Aaron. Man, yeah. All right, so let me see. Where was I? Let me get back to my maps here. Those folks I couldn't see, I now have 15 upload speed, which I was at 800 a second ago. So anyway, so that was not good. All right, we fixed that now. So let me jump to the thing I was going to say. All right, where were we? Oh yeah, we finished up the warm air advection, which I was showing you what that is. That helps cause the precipitation. So now let's just jump to the answer of what that means. So bottom line is, when you do have that situation with overrunning moisture and warm air over top of that very shallow, dense cold air, then you end up with an icing situation of light freezing drizzle, light freezing rain, and sometimes heavy freezing rain, depending on how much advection that there is. So the output, for example, in this case, is a large area of icing accumulations here across Oklahoma, parts of the Texas Panhandle, Northwest Texas, through Arkansas again, Missouri, etc. So it's over a very large area of the country. If I were to expand this out, it'll probably get close to Chicago. Yeah, almost hits Chicago, and then from there it just stretches north and east all the way to New England. So this would be a pretty significant winter storm that's going to affect a lot of people, a lot of power outages. So this is kind of a nightmare situation. It's because that pattern's locked in for so many days. So that's what causes that. Now, your timing on this, like we mentioned, is at the end of this month into the February for this whole pattern to evolve. Now, even if you're to look at not just the European, but all the models as they kind of blend together for that period, so some of them aren't going to be able to see this very well. The European is going to always be the first. It's even got 2/10 here in Oklahoma with 0.36 in some of these areas. So this is kind of on the low end of what things may be. If I were just to take a look at the European data itself for that time frame, it's much higher. So there's some values here up around half an inch, almost close to 6/10 in here in hit and miss areas across central, northeast, southwest Oklahoma. There's a lot in there, again, 6/10. So bottom line is we got to be careful to see if this plays out. I can tell you over time, this is a look at the European forecast change in its temperatures. So in other words, kind of like a trend anomaly. In other words, is it getting warmer or is it getting colder in its outlook for this certain day? So for example, we'll take a look at the 28th, 29th. So Saturday into Sunday. All right, that time frame here for the weekend. When the first model came out, it had temperatures close to normal, just +2. But by the time it's all said and done, it's up to +12. Right? So on Sunday and a Monday, it had about -1. Kind of went back and forth, bounced back, and now it's -20, -19, -10 latest. So the trend has been to get colder on Sunday, Monday. Monday to Tuesday, same idea. Trend's been to get colder. Then Tuesday to Wednesday, it kind of went back and forth. It was actually colder earlier, then moderated some, and then went back to cold again, -19 below normal. And then for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, trend, not because it goes so far out, doesn't have much of a history with it, but trend again is to be colder. So that kind of shows you that the European model continues to trend colder with all of its runs. So what that means on the extended outlook here is we go from Sunday through next week, and I've been telling you this for the last 4 days, on these extended outlooks for the end of the month and early next week, the models are going to be clueless when it comes to the temperatures. They're not going to have a good idea. This is the first time I've seen it this evening where they're actually starting to trend in the right direction. I mean, they had some 50s and 60s up here. I think it was yesterday, the day before, and I would just laugh at that going, that is not going to happen. So, again, we're going to have a nice little run-up for temperatures for the weekend, close to 60, maybe by Saturday. The snow, whatever's left, it hasn't melted by itself today. We'll get it melt tomorrow. A little straggling snow maybe for Friday. That's about it. If you do look at some of the European data itself, you can also see how it's trending colder. There's 31, 35, 36 degrees in that time frame. The American model, let's see, this newest run isn't in yet, but its oldest one from earlier today also decided to start trending colder in that area. It doesn't even know what to do yet. So at points, they've had these numbers down close to zero, depending on how cold the atmosphere is going to be. So in other words, it's hinting that it could be much colder than what we see. All right, so final note, on my website, airandtotalweather.com, there's a weather data tab on there, multi-state road conditions. You can get on this page right here, and you can check out how the roads are doing overnight tonight and also by tomorrow morning as you head out the door. So you can click on any of these little photographs, and you can see how the roads look because they'll be lit up with pictures. You'll be able to see at night if the road is covered white with snow, for example, which I just picked a random one there in southeast Oklahoma, where it doesn't seem to be so bad. And the colors for the roads will change if they're slow. So like this is orange for slow travel. Now that picture I can't make any heads or tails out of, but there might be some better ones there as crews are out just to make sure the roads are safe. And then you can do the same thing for these guys here, which are across Oklahoma City. And you can see traffic moving along, the streets are wet. And you can expand this out and go all across the state, including Tulsa, so it's the whole state of Oklahoma. And then, of course, you've got Kansas and you've got Missouri already showing some roads that are snow-covered. And then you got Arkansas and Colorado. So that page is pretty popular. It's on my website, airandtotalweather.com. You can get to it anytime we have these winter weather events so that you can get your latest info immediately at your fingertips as if there's going to be any traffic issues with the weather. Okay, so that ended up going quite a bit longer because I had to tap dance for my internet to come back, which never did, so I had to go hotspot off my phone. So what happens is I'm on the last end of a Cox node in my neighborhood, which means any perturbations, any noise in the line, anybody that's connected to AT&T that did not disconnect from Cox, any water gets in the line, any transformers that have a problem, doesn't matter, whatever it is, it reverberates and I get on data. So in other words, my upload speed dies instantly and I can't get it back until that noise settles down or gets removed, whatever's causing it. So I'll have to kind of have a line crew come out and find the source and fix it. And this would probably be like their 10th or 12th time to do this. So, but that's because they're not going to install fiber in my neighborhood, even though it's right in the middle of the city. I guess they just don't want to do that. So I can hotspot on T-Mobile when that happens. And that's really it. It's really only two options I got here. So it is what it is, and I make the best of it. But if I get a little sourpuss face when I'm live and this stuff happens, you'll know why. Even though on the inside, I'm screaming. On the outside, it's half a smile. So anyway, so there you go. I'll be updating off and on over the next few days as we take more data and more looks at the developing pattern for the end of the month in early February and see if it's going to stay locked in like that. So right now, historically, for pattern recognition, that's what it looks like. And I was glad to see the European finally lock onto it. It kind of touched on it a few times, but it never went really full bore. And then today it did, and I was like, that's the thing I was waiting on. That was a signal I needed to see to have a lot more confidence in that outcome. So we shall see. All right, listen, you guys, thanks again for watching tonight. I appreciate your comments. You guys on YouTube as always. And if you miss any of these broadcasts, you can always check out the replay. And you can always kind of fast forward through that video to see the areas that you're looking for, like if it's snow totals or if it's talking about the ice or whatever you want to do. So you do have some flexibility there on all the platforms. And then when it's all finally done, I usually upload them to Gab TV. Still waiting for them to go live, but I'll usually do that as well. All right. You guys have been great. Thanks for your support during the snow. Again, sorry that half to 2/3 of it melted. It is what it is, but we did get some really decent snowfall totals. Oh, did I do that map? Hold on. No. Dadgummit. How did I skip that? Where was that? I just realized that I missed. I forgot. I skipped right over it. I'm so irritated. I'm double irritated. All right, before I sign off, how do you measure the snow when it melts and you don't get a chance to with your ruler? Okay, so this is a look at the rainfall totals across the state today. What you're going to have to do, boy, I'm losing it, man. What I'm going to have to do is you go and you outline where you know it snowed and it was no rain at all. So let's say the snow was guaranteed all day long like this. With the exception, actually, I think in this zone right here was kind of split. You had rain for the first half of the day, and then you had snow later on. So a lot of this will be mostly rain. But where you did see mostly snow in this zone, you can measure the amount that we saw in the precipitation in the bucket, right? Now, the caveat here is you got to wait probably till tomorrow to get all of this to finally melt. That's kind of clumped in that snow formation in the rain gauge buckets to melt. And when they do, you'll get your final liquid equivalent, all right? So let's just say, for example, tomorrow we wake up and let's say that the final total is like 6/10 here in Oklahoma City. All right, that's how much technically rain we got if you were to melt the snow down. All right, so then how do you know how much snow you had? Well, at a 10-to-1 ratio, we would just multiply that 6/10 by 10, and you'd get 6 inches of snow. Now, today, the snow ratios were lower than that. I think I saw anywhere between 5 and 7. So now, let's just say 5 to make it easy. All right. So instead of multiplying that factor with a 10, it's basically a 5 factor. So you got to do the math. So basically, it means you're dividing the number in half. So if we had 6/10 tomorrow of the total rainfall bucket at a 5-to-1 snow ratio, then that's only 3 inches of snow. All right, because you have to double it, or in this case, divide by 2. So that's how you would get at least an estimation as to how much snow you had, since you couldn't measure because it melted so fast from the ground heat and the air temperature being 34 degrees at times during the day. So that's how you would kind of get around and get a pseudo estimate if you didn't have a bunch of people out there at the ruler. Now, for days where it was, or for most of the day, it was rain down here, that's going to be a lot harder of a trick to do. What you would have to do is you would take a snapshot of what you saw through the period before it snowed. In other words, let's just assume all these numbers was all liquid rain and it's not snowing until just now. All right. So what you do is you take the final total tomorrow that you get on these numbers and you would subtract the current numbers. So let's say down here it was tomorrow it says 2 inches. And then we have to subtract the 1.14. All right. Because we know that was all rain. All right. So that leaves us with, again, about 8/10 of precipitation. So now we go back to our formula of 7-to-1 snow ratio maybe during the event that this event was, and then you take that 7 factor and then you figure out how much of that converts into snow. So it's a little math. It's a lot of educated guessing. It's our best method to do it if you can't be out there and measure with the ruler. So that way at least you know. So at the end of the day, it could snow 8 inches falling from the sky. And it would be an accurate forecast. It snowed 8 inches, but the problem was how much of it didn't melt, just because of other outside factors, and that becomes the tricky part. So that's why it's always difficult when you're doing snow forecasts, because I can show you how much is going to snow, and then the question is, well, how much of it's going to melt? And I'm going to say, well, I don't know, 2 inches. It's always an estimated guess. Today, it was a lot more than 2 inches that melted, that's for sure, because you can't get 12 hours of solid snow. 12 hours, big flakes. There is no way in the world that will ever measure 1 inch of snow, which is what some of those reports were today. So that means, we've melted good 6 inches of snow maybe out of the whole deal. If you had a 1 inch per rate snowfall hour, which is some of what it came down to, a lot of that. My goodness, that's, if you did just 12 hours, that's 12 inches of snow. Obviously didn't do that the whole time, but for a big chunk of it. So, I mean, it could have easily snowed 8 to 10 inches here in the metro, and we'll never know because it all melted as fast as it was falling. So that's the irritating part from a forecaster standpoint. But it is what it is. Nothing you can do about it. The only way around that is we get temperatures at 32, all right, a minimum of 32 degrees, and the ground temperatures are also in the low to mid 30s. Then not much melts at all, just a little bit, and then it's all accumulated. So that's the only way workaround around that. Other than that, it's a lot of frustration and a lot of unhappy people at the end of the day because they didn't pile up to that top of that ruler. So I get it, but that's the science behind it. All right, listen, that's it for me. I'm gonna get out of here, but again, I think I tried to sign off 20 minutes ago. This is my final sign off. You guys be good, and we will talk again soon. Take care.